so we're back on Breaking Dawn, people. We're just about 7:59 for the next 10 minutes. We're going to be joined by Seth Wyola Board. And Seth is going to tackle the true cost of free healthcare.
GTV and all of our viewers internationally, regionally, and locally. All right. So this morning, the cost of free healthcare. Now, the reason why I decided to do this particular topic, it has to do with a comment that I've gotten often, especially under my ads and so forth, or when people call, they might say, well, why is the one-time consultation re-education session, why is the cost $1,000? They find it's too expensive. But before I even talk about the cost, we need to be clear about what this session actually is. What most people are unaware of, it is not just a short appointment to tell somebody they have a problem. In fact, people they come into me because they already know they have a problem. They are already sick, right? So what they do not know is what actually caused the problem and what specifically needs to be corrected for the body to recover, all right? So the consultation and re-education session, emphasis on the re-education. It identifies the root cause of the condition, it explains how it developed, and it lays out exactly what needs to change to reverse the process.
Right.
So it is corrective, not just informative, all right? And that distinction matters, and it matters in a big way. So the real question is not whether $1,000 is a lot of money. The real question is, a lot compared to what, right? A lot of people really question how much they're spending every month on medication, right? They really question the repeated doctor visit, the lab tests, the referrals, the lifelong disease management. In fact, I could give you an example. A guy did a consultation with me, and he said he was diagnosed with a condition, and the doctor told him that he needs to do a test for this condition. The test cost $14,000. He did the test, paid the $14,000, and was told what he already knew, which was he had a particular diagnosis from previously. So he's wondering, what did he actually pay for?
Right.
I've had somebody else, they were advised to do a test. They were already diagnosed with a condition, advised to do a test. The test cost $24,000, Stefan. They did the test, they took the result of that test and went to another doctor with that result. And the doctor said, I can't use that result. You have to do another test. Right? Look how much money is being paid and spent. But people pay those things. Many of them do without hesitation. But when it comes to my one-time re-education session, consultation, that identifies the cause of the problem, people are hesitant for that, right? I had somebody come to me, right, a mother and son, all adults, both adults, son is a big person, and they did a consultation only, right? The issue the individual had, and I've had individuals who suffered with things like gout and eczema, skin issues, and just from the consultation alone, they made certain changes to their diet. No supplements, no drug, nothing. And this is a condition that the individual was suffering with for years. And just from that one consultation and re-education session, they applied what they have learned from it, and their condition is now gone. Right? Gone. One consultation and re-education session, right?
Okay.
And that's because, I identified the biological drivers of their condition and outlined what needed to be removed, and it was corrected, right?
Right.
So they applied the knowledge that they learned from it, and their life have been changed. People have had conditions that they have been told that would last for their life, right? Conditions that if you check how much money they would have been spending on medications, it would have been money they would have been spending over decades. And when the cost conversation, when we look at that, the cost conversation start to look very different now,
yeah,
right? A gentleman came to me, I think it was January of this year. I believe it was January of this year. And he did a consultation with me. He called me back in February, because it was early January. He called me back in February and said, when I came to you, he said, I was diabetic. And he said, notice the word I used.
Was
I
it?
was diabetic, yeah. He said, because I am no longer diabetic, he have had no use for the medication for the, but since he came to me, because he made the dietary changes, and his blood sugar level is always on point, right? He said it doesn't cross 100, right?
Okay.
And that's from one consultation and re-education session. And it's not because drugs were used to suppress his numbers, but it was because the biological drivers were identified and removed through targeted dietary and lifestyle correction.
Right.
So, again, people would ask, one-time consultation and re-education session is too expensive, but I would ask too expensive compared
To what?
What?
Yeah.
Right? That is what people have to ask. I've had people come to me after they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, there are certain things,
Right.
certain treatments will cost you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Sometimes, I remember there was a good friend of mine was staying in, well, I ain't gonna call the name of the place, it's one of those private hospitals. When they get
Yeah.
the bill, it was over $200,000.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep. And in
Pressure.
many cases, that amount of money has been spent and there was no resolution to their problem.
Yeah, they still have the problem when they leave here. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
It's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know someone spent over $300,000 on a procedure, and then 8 years later, the same problem came back again.
And we
You
have
know
also,
why?
we've always said, you've always said, surgery is the last option. So if you go and your doctor, one of the first, one of the first things they advise is well, you know, you need to,
The surgery.
there is something
Right.
wrong there, because there are options before surgery. Surgery is the last,
And here is the thing.
last stop.
And here's the thing, if somebody has an aggressive condition, let's say they have an aggressive form of cancer where surgery is needed, you still need nutritional therapy along with that procedure in order to help the body to heal correctly.
heal.
Because again, it still hasn't dealt with what caused the problem.
Correct.
So you do the surgery, but you haven't dealt with the root cause. What's going to happen? All you did was remove, let's say you had a hysterectomy. So you remove the wound, right? That is not a fix. You just remove the organ that was being affected, so now you're going to have some hormonal imbalances and other issues that are going to come along with that. And here is the thing, because the root cause wasn't addressed, you're going to get another organ, another area of the body that is going to malfunction because, again, root cause haven't been addressed.
Yeah.
Right? And we also have the aspect now with the free healthcare system. We have gotten used to this free medication and free healthcare, right? And over time, that has changed how people perceive disease. When symptoms are controlled and access to the medications and these procedures become easy, people begin to believe the problem is resolved, and the problem isn't. Right? But we have to understand that symptom control is not disease reversal. Right? These are two very totally different things. Not because your symptoms are controlled, it means that your disease is reversed.
Yeah.
And people need to understand that.
Yeah.
And since the expansion, and I believe I mentioned this before, the expansion of the Chronic Disease Assistance Program, CDAP, right? Where access to medication has become free. Right? People access to the medication have improved, yes, but the outcomes did not improve in parallel. And what I mean by that is, now people have free access to these medications for these chronic illnesses. But has the chronic illnesses declined? They haven't. Non-communicable diseases have increased, not decreased, because people get that false sense of security.
Yeah.
All right? And because they have easy access to these medications, nobody is focusing on root cause, because I could go and take a pill And remember, they play a numbers game. It's a numbers game. So everybody less looking at the numbers. Oh, my readings are good today, right? But medication just simply suppresses symptoms. It does not remove the cause. So while symptoms are being masked, the underlying biological damage continues quietly below the surface. And this is why people would be feeling stable for years, and then suddenly they start to deteriorate. And I see that all the time. People come to me and they'll say things like, I haven't been sick my whole life. And they're thinking because they haven't been sick their whole life, right, that this issue that they're having now is something that they just did that caused it, not knowing it's things that they have been doing throughout their lifetime that accumulated and caused that problem. And I've had people come to me with autoimmune conditions, right? And they are now off medications, no flare-up, no inflammatory markers, the inflammatory markers back to the normal range. And it's not because the immune system was suppressed with any medications, you know. It was because the inflammatory low-driving conditions was removed, right? I've had women come to me with conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, adenomyosis, thyroid dysfunctions, and the pain resolved, menstrual cycles regulated back to normal, and in some cases, Stefan, the conditions reduced to the point that it's no longer detectable, right? But I also want to be very clear about something. I am not saying that one conversation can fix everything automatically.
Right.
Because, as we all know, biology is individual and healing is a process. But what the consultation and re-education session does is give people the correct framework, the correct targets, and the correct actions needed for the body to get back to where it needs to be and for the body to regulate itself. Right? And this is also why I wrote my book, You Are Not Sick, You Are Malnourished.
Right.
Because reality is, one conversation, even a deep one, which is what my consultations and re-education session is, right? It cannot undo decades of misinformation. And the book is part of the re-education. It allows people to revisit the principles, understand the mechanisms, and at their own pace. And it reinforces what they learned in the consultation. Right? Because remember, our consultation, you can't just rewind in your brain what went on in the conversation just like that, unless somebody have good photographic memory. Right? So for some people, understanding the information is enough to make the changes on their own. But for others, applying that information consistently take guidance. And this is where my nutritional therapy program comes in. And that program is one where I coach the person's diet, right? So they can properly apply what they learn in the consultation and re-education session. And I normally encourage people to try to do that program for a minimum of 3 months, right? And it's not to create dependency, but it is to build competence, right? So by the end of that period, most people would reach a point where they understand their body well enough to manage the diet, right? And to manage it efficiently and effectively enough for the rest of their lives. So it takes away that dependency or long-term dependency on me. So my goal is not long-term dependency, but it is long-term independence from disease. And that's what people need to get on and understand. So my course, when you think about it, and even for the people that have done a consultation and have had their health issues resolved, they're not going and tell you that they find it $1,000 is too much, right? Because these are conditions they would have been battling with and spending tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars over years. In fact, many of them will tell you that it is too cheap, right? I've had people after my consultations told me, boy, you're charging way too low for this information. And I said, yes, I know that. I understand that. But people aren't used to stuff like that. People aren't used to one-time stuff, a one-time consultation, one-time re-education session. They're not used to that. They're used to, I go by a particular clinic, whether it's naturopath, herbal, whether it's in the mainstream healthcare system, And they know it's supposed to have repeated visits, repeated visits, repeated visits. That's what people have been accustomed to. That's what they have been programmed into. Most people don't understand that healing is a process. It is not a product. There is no product. Let me repeat this. There is no product on the market that can heal you. Healing is always a process.
Yeah.
Not a product. There is no product that can heal. Your body heals, right? And it takes a process to heal, right? I'm not saying a product can't assist, but do not mistake that assistance, that symptom suppression for healing. And that is what people are mistaken, right? Or I had a really good conversation with a doctor the other day, a surgeon, young surgeon.
Right.
And he was telling me, but in the conversation, he's like, the things you're saying here is actually quite on point. It is very much on point. And he said, maybe you should try to see if you could get to work with doctors to see. But that's a difficult thing. Because
not difficult thing.
Yeah. That's a very difficult thing.
It's a difficult thing. We out of time, but I got to say, when I say we out of time, I just want to shift the attention away from the topic at hand, because I think you made the point. And I just want to steer it in the direction of the new year. And the new year is coming. And this is the last episode for 2025. And you will be back in March. You and Dr. Watson. Well, Dr. Watson will be back in March as well. So first off, of course, I want to wish you all the best for the new year. That's one. Secondly, we are what, 3 years? This is the third year? Or the fourth year?
No, actually, this is about 4.5 years.
4.5 years.
We're into the fifth year.
Right. So we have...
We're into the fifth year, because we started in 2021.
Right, 2021. I was trying to remember if it's 21 or 22. I remember, and I just want to tell people this, I remember when we first spoke, it was on the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of reading and research on that, and we were kind of on the same page as to what was going on. We offended a lot of people over the last 4.5 years. We offended a few people well, but we turned out to be correct in what we were in our position, right? So we read the play, we read the playbook, right, correctly. And I remember asking you, I said, Seth, you sure you could come up with enough topics? You sure you have enough content? And you say, yeah, man, I have real content. And be 4.5 years down the road, and that's a lot of content and a lot of conversations, man. And
Correct.
You know, people got to understand this, As you talk about your consultation, I don't think you have to justify the price of your consultation, because let me tell you something, it's like me trying to justify the price of my ticket for one of my events. You understand what I'm saying? And then when people come to the event, they realize, but Stefan, I owe you money, because, you know, they get more than their money's worth, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. You can't put a price, I mentioned it earlier on in the program. What is the price that we'll put on life? Preserving life. What is the price tag on that? There is none, right? Because we only here once, right? So when you go through the normal medical system and you get your advice from the medical persons there, and we're not discrediting them and their work. I don't think we ever intended to, but there are certain things that we have to challenge, because there is a different way to do the same thing, right? Or to treat with the same thing. There is a different way to treat with these certain diseases, right?
In fact, I can tell you something from conversations I've had with doctors. The same way the reality is, one, they don't have the resources to school everyone or to be behind everyone.
Right.
With regards to lifestyle change, because even in their schooling, they are taught about lifestyle changes.
Lifestyle changes, yeah.
That's supposed to be first and foremost, nutrition and lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
But as many of them have told me, people don't want to hear that. So they just say it's easier to just prescribe a pill, right? Which is just a symptom suppression, right? That just suppresses symptoms.
But I think
so it's easier to do that.
I think what we've done here over the last 4.5 years for people who have contacted you and gotten onto you and have gone through your program is that, you know, those persons will know the success that they have had, right? We've never gone through the trouble of forcing people into doing testimonials or asking them for much testimonials and things like that. Yeah. But I do know that you have, I mean, you wouldn't be doing this so long unless you have, you know, I don't want to call, I don't want to say patience. I don't want to refer to your clientele as patients, but we'll say clients, right? Because you know, nutrition is what you deal with. You don't deal with the supplements and all those things, right? Correct. But they will know the progress that they have made, the changes that they have adopted in their life, the way that they are feeling today and things like that. And we know that there are a lot of people who suffering from different things, right? And you might be afraid to make the step in a different direction, right? But we're here for 4.5 years telling you there is an alternative. You understand what I'm saying? Correct. If you have gone down this road and you have not progressed and you're just spinning top in mud, going around in circles, there is an option. Okay? And
I have even had clients that came to me, and when they come to me, based on the advanced stage of their health, I've even let some of them know, well, in order for my program to work, you still need to do a particular healthcare procedure from the healthcare system because of how advanced their disease or illness is. So my program can work with, it can actually work along with any other healthcare program.
Any other healthcare program.
Right? Because remember, this is nutritional therapy. Nutritional therapy is needed regardless of what you're sick with.
Right.
Regardless of what you're sick with, nutritional therapy is needed.
Right.
And people think of it as an option, but it is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the first, like, foundational route, right, with regards to trying to heal, nutritional therapy. Anything else has to come on top of that or alongside it. Right. In many cases, nutritional therapy can work by itself, but based on how advanced somebody's illness is, it has to work alongside, or other procedures have to come on top of it.
All right.
But it's still needed.
Well, Seth, I want to thank you for this morning and this year, and we will see you in March. So all the best for the new year, my brother. And you never know, I might come, I feel I might come and get a consultation because this is it. No, I mean, 4.5 years you do this and I never really activate. I tried it for like a few weeks and it was working. And then, you know, I mean, I kind of think off it. I really wanted to get my father involved and then, you know, I just didn't have the, and I always regret that, you know, I always feel like, you know, if I'd make that time, you know, he'd be back on his feet and good again and, you know, might still be around and that kind of thing. But I'm not in control of what God's plan is. So I might think so, but that may not have been the case. And I have to, you know, live with those things and hope that, you know, it is what it is and that is how it was supposed to be. But for me, myself, and I think I will check you in the new year and we'll have a conversation, man. All right?
Good. But I look forward to it. In the new year, some of my topics, because I don't think I've ventured into addressing viruses. So I'm going a little bit more into viruses.
Viruses.
In the new year, because I haven't dealt with that since
the
past 4.5 years. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, my brother. Enjoy the new year.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man.
Take care. Be safe.
Yep. That's set while aboard on the inside, man. Set 4.5 years, boy. That has flown. That flew. That would have been just about a year before. It would have been on a year. And yeah, after that year, my father passed away. And my father passed away in 2022. He came on in 2021. You know? And, you know, there are a lot of things what I know now, if I knew it then, I would have made some other moves and different decisions.